We all did our waiting. 14 years of it. Hey, I'm Amy and welcome back. The Incredibles 2 is finally here after waiting 14 or 15 years for this. I am so excited. The Incredibles is one of my favorite Pixar movies, probably in my top 5, probably after like Inside Out, and I love Ratatouille so much, mostly because it's about food, but The Incredibles is so good. It's just really top notch. I didn't have my expectations set like super high for this because as far as sequels go for Pixar, they don't really have the best track record on anything other than Toy Story, and I think that's just because Toy Story is the best story ever told. Like, not necessarily the best story ever told, but growing up with Toy Story, like most kids my age grew up with Andy. Andy would be my age now, which is nearly 30, and makes me feel so nostalgic for the original Toy Story, but that is a whole nother thing that we don't necessarily need to get into right now because we're talking about Incredibles 2. Wow. I did not have my hopes set too high for this, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but please be warned, there may be some very slight spoilers in this. Not that it's not really going to be a bad thing if it's spoiled for you, because the first thing I really kind of want to talk about is the fact that I knew what was going to happen. I think mostly because it is a kids movie, it's slightly predictable, but I honestly did not mind because I was having so much fun, and the lead up to the part that I had predicted, or at least I predicted who the villain would be, and the lead up to the reveal of the villain was so much fun, and the way they end up defeating the villain is even more fun and kind of unpredictable. I did not predict how they would defeat the villain, and I loved the way they did so. The predictable part of it for me was kind of outweighed more so by the rest of the story and the character arcs. The stories line up fairly similarly between the first one and the second one, where the parents go off and one of the parents goes off and becomes a superhero. You see that basically from the trailer, but this one is more so about the women getting the spotlight versus Mr. Incredible learning to work with other people than himself. Because the first Incredibles movie was really about Mr. Incredible learning to work with a team, and then the entire Incredible family becoming a team at the end. And this one was really about Elastigirl becoming a very powerful superhero. Well, I wouldn't say very powerful, but becoming the superhero that she was meant to be. And it's very girl power driven, very empowering, and I really liked that because you don't really get to see a lot of movies like that, especially movies written by males. They're usually a little bit more, at least superhero movies are a little bit more male driven when they're written by males, versus like Wonder Woman was written by a female and it was very female driven. I really like the fact that because Elastigirl was the one that had to step up and become the superhero, or she was kind of selected to be the superhero, but she really stepped up and took that role. Mr. Incredible was the one that had to stay home and be a stay-at-home dad, which is not a story you really get to see in a lot of movies today, and I loved how they handled it. You can just see the exhaustion on his face. A lot of the way the story, the stay-at-home dad story went, was what you would expect from a stay-at-home dad story, minus the fact that he has a very super-powered baby that he has to look after. But you see him struggling with his teenage daughter and her boyfriend. I say that very loosely. Plus helping his son with math. It's something that you would see in pretty much any stay-at-home dad comedy, and it was so fun and such a very fresh take on the story. And with that, they also spent a lot of time focusing on Jack's powers and what they are. At the end, they allude to the fact that there are more than what you see on screen, which is insane, and I don't know if they're going to be making a third one of these. I feel like this one will do really well and they may make a third one, but I don't know if I would want that because this one was just so good. It was so much fun. And I don't know what else they would do. I mean, there's probably so many other things, so many other ways this can go. And I was listening to an interview with the writer and director Brad Bird, who said that he is not super fond of sequels, even though he has done a sequel to Mission Impossible, as well as the second Incredibles movie. But I don't know if he would be up to making another one of these, and I kind of hope he doesn't. I kind of hope that Disney and Pixar don't decide to do another one, because the story was kind of told, and I feel like if they did make another one, it would just be a cash grab. Even if it was to kind of really dig deeper into Jack's powers and see how they evolve with him, but some things are better left to the imagination. Here is a slight spoiler that I'm pretty sure everybody knows anyways, because they talked a little bit about it. Like, I had heard whispers of this happening way long ago, but this movie picks up exactly where the last one left off 15 years ago, which is kind of different for the way Pixar and I wouldn't say most sequels happen, but the way Pixar has done their sequels in the past, they usually follow the timeline of how long it takes to make the sequel. So with Toy Story, I don't remember the exact length between 1 and 2, but you see the time difference with Andy's age between 1 and 3. And with this one, it literally picks up almost exactly where the first one left off, even though there is almost a 15-year gap in between. And I really like that, because you want to see what the Incredibles do with the Underminer, and what they do is pretty fun and leads to some other fun shenanigans. This is jumping a little off base though. I wanted to talk a little bit about the actors for certain things. There wasn't a whole lot of difference in the characters between the first and the second one, because there wasn't a whole lot of growth for them to happen, I guess. I want to say how much I love Holly Hunter as Elastigirl. Like, I just love Holly Hunter in general. She's a great actress. If you haven't seen The Big Sick, you need to. She is superb in that movie, but she's also really great as Elastigirl. I don't know what it is about her voice. It's just so comforting and sweet. And of course, Bob Odenkirk plays their financier, I guess. That's probably a little bit of a spoiler, but I love Bob Odenkirk ever since, well, I know a lot of people will say Mr. Show, because that's kind of where he got his start, but I never really watched Mr. Show growing up. I found him on Breaking Bad, and I absolutely love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I love Bob Odenkirk, so seeing him get to play a role in this and not be the role that I expected it to be was so fun. I just love seeing Bob Odenkirk in things. And I know he is not the voice of this character, but the Tony kid, Violet's boyfriend, looks so much like Zach Woods from Silicon Valley. It was very weird to me. He even sounded a little bit like him, but it wasn't voiced by him. I just thought it would be funny to mention the fact that one of the actors, like one of the animated characters in this movie, looked like a real life person that I don't think they even meant to look like, but that was just a fun observation that I made. And then a couple things I want to touch on before I give you my rewatch score. I think I already mentioned this. I can't remember. I'm kind of all over the place tonight, but I loved the fact that this was very, very much girl powered. It was very empowering. The fact that the people that save the day, the superheroes that end up saving the day, are the women, and they don't have to rely on the men as much to save them, kind of like they did in, or kind of like they do in most superhero movies, like Clark Kent as Superman always saves Lois Lane. But in this Incredibles movie, the women saved the day, and it was so good. It was really focused around that. And I don't know if that was just because they wanted to switch it up a little bit, instead of having Mr. Incredible being the one that saves the day as always, or just switch it up from being focused on Mr. Incredible like the first one was, and have it focused more on the mom. But they did give another female superhero that kind of comes into the spotlight a little bit of time, as well as Violet herself. So kind of a all-encompassing female empowerment vibe. And then the final thing is they had a really interesting commentary at how much time we spend on screens. This movie is set in 1963, I want to say. It's set in the 1960s, so they didn't really have the same kind of technology we have now, but the main villain of this movie is all about getting people to get stuck on their screens and just be hypnotized by their screens, and that's what a lot of us today, myself included, I spend so much time staring at a screen at work. I'm either at my computer or I'm looking at my phone. When I'm at home, I'm either watching TV or watching something on my computer or watching something on my phone, or I'm just constantly staring at a screen. It's a great commentary for today's society set in 1960, even though that wasn't, well, I guess it was kind of prevalent because they showcased it a little bit in the movie where everyone is standing around a storefront watching TV, which did happen quite a bit in the 1960s, I want to say, because that's how businesses like electronic stores sold TVs, was having these displays of TVs and people come in and watch, or just stand outside and watch the news or anything that's playing on the TVs. So they would go into the store and buy a TV, and it's kind of carried over into now where we're all staring at our phones constantly. But I did love that little tiny, it's not tiny criticism, but it just kind of slid in there a little bit under the radar because everyone else is focused so much more on the story. I mean, it's probably not as unnoticeable as I say it is, but it's in there, and I just kind of like the fact that it's a little jab at our society today. So my rewatch score for The Incredibles 2, we all know, hands down, I'm going to be adding this to my collection, not only because I'm a completionist when it comes to series, even though I only have 2 Pixar movies at the moment, I really do love this movie. It was so much fun. It just exceeded my expectations way past what I had thought it would be. It was so much fun, and even though I figured out what was going to happen for the most part and who the villain was going to be, I still had so much fun watching it. And it's probably, if not my favorite, my top like 2 or 3 favorite Pixar movie of all time. It's so much fun, and I want to go watch it again. So I think that's pretty much everything I have for you guys today. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of The Incredibles 2. Did you think it was a great follow-up to the original, or did you think it suffered from Pixar's sequel-itis? Let me know in the comments down below. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really truly do appreciate every single one of you. Let me know who you are in the comments down below, and let's be friends. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe if you're new, because I love talking movies, TV shows, filmmaking, film history, all of that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye!